everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining us today for this webinar with Fullscript, Designs for Health and FX Chocolate. My name's Kaylee. I'm very excited to be here with Dr. Brady and Neal Mercado to talk about how to break up your patient's supplement routine in a delicious and science-backed way, among many other things. But before we get to hear from them, a couple of housekeeping items. As you know, if you've attended Fullscript webinars before, this is being recorded. All registrants will get a copy of the webinar through their email, but also the webinars live on fullscript.com/webinars, so you can find it there as well. And we'll send along any resources we can as well towards after the event. So also, if you have any questions throughout the presentation, we will be doing a live Q&A towards the end of the presentation. So there's a question section on your GoToWebinar dashboard. You can add them in there, and we'll address them towards the end. So I'm happy to introduce Dr. David Brady and Neal Mercado today. Dr. Brady is a licensed naturopathic medical physician, is board certified in functional medicine and clinical nutrition. He's a fellow of the American College of Nutrition and completed his initial clinical training as a doctor of chiropractic. He has been the Chief Medical Officer of Designs for Health since 2003, actually. And Neal Mercado has over 20 years of experience in the global vitamin and dietary supplement industry. He joined the Designs for Health team in 2018 and is the Chief Marketing Officer, where he has transformed the education, marketing, and product development of the company. So I could go on, but I'm going to pass it over to our hosts, and they can take it away, and I'll pop back in for a live Q&A towards the end.
Great, thank you so much. Thank you, Kaylee, and thank you, Dr. Brady. And
thank you, Neal.
Of course, yeah.
We're not always in the same room together doing webinars, but we happen to be live in New York.
In New York,
Midtown Manhattan, at the Integrative Healthcare Symposium 2022. So we're taking the time to do this webinar while we're here together.
Yeah, we're very excited to tell you about FX chocolates and the range and the brand and kind of how it all started to be. But as Kaylee mentioned, we're from Designs for Health, and firstly, this is a new product for us, a new range. Designs for Health is we're very prolific in innovation, and we're always looking for kind of the next thing to improve your ability to treat your patients and improve how people can take supplements and be healthy. And so it's a funny story about the origin of FX is we were just kind of playing around with different raw materials. We had a strong connection to our tocotrienol supplier. They sell our Delta Gold, and they were working with an artisanal chocolate maker who was using some of the tocotrienol. So we just started to play around with it a little bit, sending some different raw materials, looking to see what we could make and how much payload we could get into the dark chocolate. And we kind of stumbled upon this range. The products that we have a great, very large suite of formulations, and many of those work very well when delivered by chocolate. We think it's your and your patient's daily health ritual is really important, and being able to take a supplement sometimes is just getting it in is the optimal outcome. And again, our mission with this is really, we believe that the best supplement is the one you actually take. So you can have your formulation, and everyone has best intentions when they start, but sometimes those formulas just sit on the counter, and getting it actually in to an individual and a patient is very beneficial. As with anything that we do, quality and efficacy is top of the range, and we do not skimp at all on these. We'll talk a little bit about, Dr. Brady will talk a bit about chocolate, we'll talk a bit about the formulas, and then I'll kind of go into what we do from a quality perspective and sourcing and traceability. But we're really happy, really excited and proud of this range. We think it definitely can sit within the Designs for Health family in terms of its quality and efficacy. And we think it's a delicious way of taking supplements, and hopefully will change the way that some of your patients engage with supplements as well.
Yeah, I'll add in to what Neal already alluded to. I've been in the practice of functional integrative medicine and clinical nutrition for over 30 years, and I'm very comfortable saying that the biggest challenge probably we have is to get people to be compliant long term, long enough to really see the benefits that they're hoping for. And we know, pill fatigue is a real issue. And at Designs for Health, we've always really tried to be at the tip of the spear in developing other types of ways to deliver functional ingredients and therapeutic agents. Beyond just two-piece capsules and soft gels, we were very early into chews and gummies and powder, like fluffy powders, like protein powders, but also more crystalline powders and effervescent powders. And all of those have a place and have a role, and they all have a strength and a weakness. But I think they all are subject to supplement fatigue, where the patients with the pills just get sick of the amount of pills that they have to take. Some people have a hard time swallowing pills, and particularly if you're talking about, younger people or people with disabilities and older people as well. And then even powders, people kind of get sick of mixing up the powder, taking the time to do it, or the dust on the counter, or they get sick of the taste, no matter how good you make it taste. And no matter what we make, some people think it's too sweet, and some people think it's not sweet enough. So everyone has different sort of palates for that. So we've always been trying to come up with ways to overcome that challenge. And I think the chocolate is a wonderful idea on a lot of fronts. In that 30 years of practice, I've done a lot of diet histories and asked people what they eat and what they like and what they crave, and even the most health conscious people, and a lot of patients that come to see functional integrative medicine providers are already pretty health savvy or health conscious, or they usually don't find a functional medicine doctor. And when you do their histories, they're really trying to do a lot of good things dietarily. But I always ask people not just, what do they avoid? What do they eliminate? What's their breakfast? What's their lunch look like? What's their dinner? I always ask them about those snacks and those cravings. What do they crave? What do they want? What's their comfort food? And hands down, it's not even close. It's dark chocolate. I want my dark chocolate. Don't make me give up my dark chocolate. Even above coffee is don't make me give up my dark chocolate. So I think it was a perfect idea to try to get the therapeutic agent to be what they're craving and what they like, to get them to actually take it. And here was the clinching moment, though. As you know, Neal, we're involved in product development, and we develop a lot of products. So a lot of samples come our way and arrive at our house from FedEx and UPS and everything else. And we get all these like trials of different prototype products. And my kids and my wife to some degree, but more my young boys, they're young teenagers now. I would try to get them to drink the powders and take the pills and all, because I want to check it on pediatrics. So they're like my little guinea pigs. But I got to tell you, the whole perception of everything I do with them changed when the chocolate started coming to the house, right? Because that's a game changer, and that made it real, and they love them. So if they love them, just about anyone will love them.
That's a good testament there,
Yeah.
Dr. Brady. But that's so true. I think even the idea of putting a supplement into a chocolate is one thing in concept, but actually having that chocolate taste like an artisanal dark chocolate that tastes like a chocolate that you want to eat is the important thing.
Yeah, because we know a lot of those things like botanicals full of alkaloids and things like that taste wonderful, right?
Yeah.
We know they taste like recycled jet fuel generally.
Yeah.
So
dirty stuff.
Yeah, so to try to get them into a chocolate that tastes good is a bit of an art form. So
Here's we talked a little bit about this, but there's some really interesting things about this chocolate formulation. So obviously, new delivery system. It has no sugar. Dr. Brady will talk about the sweetener. We sweeten it with allulose, which is it's actually a rare sugar found in nature. Has no impact on blood glucose at all, but tastes just like sugar. We can deliver quite a high payload per square. So it's a 4.5 gram square, like a kind of a thin wafer chocolate, but we can deliver really meaningful doses of active ingredients as well in that.
And that was a non-compromising situation. We did not want to put out a range of chocolates that had, like, label dressed doses of things that weren't impactful, that didn't match clinical outcome trials and things like that. So and there's been some formulations we probably didn't go that direction because we couldn't do that. So we really arrived at things, and we will continue to, that we can get the efficacious doses in, deliver them in a chocolate that tastes great.
Yeah, for sure. Dr. Brady will talk a little bit about chocolate being a delivery system. It's very high lipid, really good fats, and not only does it help to improve the bioavailability and usability, but it actually helps to protect the active as well, because fat soluble, oxygen barrier. It's a really great delivery system. And in addition to that, we've been able to keep the pricing in line with other solid dosage forms as well. So it's not an impost from a financial perspective, but it delivers a really great formulation. So some consumer insights here. We spoke about many of them, but our tagline is kind of supplements, but make them chocolate. And we're delivering dietary supplements delivered in artisanal, delicious dark chocolate. We know, as Dr. Brady, attested, there's a lot of pill fatigue. These will help to improve compliance, and many people look forward to taking them as a snack and as a treat. They're very convenient. They're individually wrapped, easy to take on the go. And utilize. It gives you really permission to indulge, no guilt. There's no sugar. They're vegetarian and keto friendly as well, and clean and green. So really minimal ingredients. Essentially just 3 ingredients: there's cocoa, butter, cacao beans, allulose, and then the active. And that's it. Very, very simple. We actually make it ourselves. We have our own production facility, and we test everything like we do all of the other supplements that we offer as well. And we also go beyond that in that we are very transparent with our certificate of analyses and how the products are testing to ensure we're meeting label claim. So there's some I think some really great insights there around why this range. Here's, obviously we spoke, Dr. Brady's here with us and has helped to drive these formulations, but we also have kind of blending the science and the art. So we have our own head chocolate maker, Morgan Coleman. He's an award-winning chocolate maker out of Utah. We've actually relocated him down to where we work out of near the Daytona city, kind of St. Augustine, Daytona area. And he's really helped us. So Dr. Brady has the active ingredients and the science first therapeutic nature, and Morgan is there to help to understand how can we make these into delicious chocolates that are quality controlled and dietary supplement level and CGMP compliant and all of that. So it's a really great marriage between the two. Dr. Brady is going to go through a little bit. We'll start with kind of chocolate as a delivery system. Touched on that briefly, but can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned some really good points. Cacao contains a lot of phenolic compounds, more than most foods, and that includes things like flavonoids, catechins, epicatechins, procyanidins, and all of these are significant antioxidants. So just the delivery system itself has a therapeutic value in and above the actives that we put in. Cacao also, as I said, contains epicatechin, which can upregulate nitric oxide production, giving a bit of a vasodilation effect. And this is beneficial, as you know, on a lot of fronts, but it includes helping the body actually uptake these nutrients and herbs as they're delivered to the system. And then the high lipid content of the cocoa butter in the chocolate can assist in protecting the active ingredients from oxidation and degradation. And the lipids themselves, are very important as building blocks to the cell membranes, and the active ingredients have a higher affinity toward cellular absorption when they're delivered in a lipid base. So the chocolate accomplishes all of that, and it's a win-win.
Yeah,
actually.
for sure. And it's interesting when we produce this, we start by, we have a big conch, and that grinds the cocoa beans and put in the cocoa butter and the allulose, and it creates this chocolate liqueur. We put the actives in there, and it's ground down to under 20 microns, which is very, very fine. And so what we're actually finding, and this is an opportunity for us maybe to do some research on this as well, is we think that there's some really nice sublingual absorption properties that's happening when it's in your mouth, as well as kind of going through throughout the GI. So it's almost kind of a liposomal, effect of that protective fat cell in a tiny particle size, kind of enabling it to be uptake through the system as well.
Yeah, it was an interesting learning process. You know much more about it than I on the production side, but we're very versed in multiple manufacturing plants making nutritional supplements and capsules and soft gels and powder fills and all that, but the whole chocolate thing was different, and learning conches and all these other things is almost like a new language, a whole new thing, and having someone like Morgan there wouldn't have been able to do it without that.
Really invaluable, for sure.
So the product is also incredibly packaged. I mean, it just has a super high-end boutique professional type of look to it, and Neal and his team have done a masterful job at making these chocolates look as good and present as well as their therapeutic value is. And they come in a couple of different counts, a 15-count box and a 30-count box. And the 30-count box is neat in that the way the packaging is designed, it can fold and convert into a point of sale display. So it's good to put it, some of these out as a tickler in your office on the front counter or something like that. Patients love it. They get a little treat when they come in, and then it opens up the point of discussion to talk to them about what these things are and why it might be a good idea for them. So also the sweetener, Neal alluded to this, but we use allulose in our Designs for Health line in a lot of different applications with products that have to have a certain taste profile. So whether they're powders or bars or whatever they may be, and allulose was a really good choice for these FX chocolate products. As Neal said, it's a rare sugar found naturally in some foods: figs, raisins, jackfruit, maple syrup. Humans don't have the enzyme to digest the allulose, but our palate senses the sweetness, but we don't digest it and harvest the calories from it. So it's largely excreted, but it does not cause some of the GI complaints that you get with alcohol, some alcohol sugars and some other things that equally can impart some level of sweet taste, but that we don't digest and absorb very well. They can cause a laxation effect. That doesn't happen with allulose. So it has very low microbial fermentability in the gut. So it's an ideal sweetener also for people on a ketogenic or a low carb diet type of scheme. It has no impact on blood glucose and insulin levels unless it's consumed at massive amounts. The glycemic impact of allulose is virtually zero, and it can actually lower someone's postprandial glucose and insulin. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration recognizes these characteristics about allulose to the point where you do not have to claim any substantial carbohydrate spec with allulose in the product as a sweetener.
Yeah, I remember when we first started using allulose, it was before the FDA.
Yeah.
We had to put 20, 22 grams of sugar on the label. Then we had to explain that, hey, look, this doesn't really count. It's such a disaster. But luckily, kind of the FDA caught up to science, and now we can claim it as zero, which is fantastic.
Perhaps we pushed them. Who knows?
Maybe.
So let's talk about the range a little bit, and these have really nice naming schemes to correlate with what their functionality is. And the first product we'll talk about in the range is Focus. So as the name implies, it has a nootropic effect. It's helping cognitive function, focus, attention, but it also acts as a good adaptogen in helping with stress, because the featured functional ingredient here is ashwagandha, and it's a proprietary, well-researched form of ashwagandha known as Nuganda, and because of it's been studied a lot. Besides the known adaptogenic, non-stimulating, actually a calming adaptogen, which is very unique, somewhat unique to this herb. Certainly very rare among adaptogens. A lot of adaptogens have a bit of stimulation to them. You can think of things like Panax ginseng, rhodiola, and things like that. There are very few. There are a couple of adaptogens that are fairly neutral, like American ginseng or Panax quinquefolia, but ashwagandha, actually with Anisomnifera, somnolence, right? So a kind of a sleep-inducing, but it's not an overt hypnotic or a sedative either. It actually fits in that nice, just that really nice pocket. So ashwagandha is a great choice for this, in that it delivers a couple of different functional effects, and we get it to the full clinically trialed dosage of 300 milligrams of ashwagandha per serving, and it's a great formulation. I don't know if you want to add anything on.
Yeah, no, I think it has some unique compounds there that do help with nootropic properties outside of other forms of ashwagandha. This is one of those that we deliver quite a high payload in. If there's one that has a taste, this one has one, but it's a really nice.
It's a cool taste.
It goes like really well, yeah, with the chocolate, with that dark chocolate also.
Yep. Okay, we have sunshine, as the name would imply. It's sort of like sunshine in a little wrapper that tastes like chocolate, right? And that it's basically our vitamin D fortified chocolate square, and it not only has D3 at 2,000 international units, but it also has the right balance of vitamin K fractions. So has 1 milligram of vitamin K2 as MK4 and 500 micrograms of vitamin K1. So that, as we know, if you're taking a daily vitamin D supplement of any significant dosing, it will increase calcium absorption, which is a good thing if the calcium is directed to the right place. So vitamin K, as we know, particularly vitamin K2 fractions like MK4, will work with GLA matrix protein and make sure the calcium goes to the hard tissues that you want the calcium to go to, bones and teeth and so forth, and not go where you don't want it to go, like atherosclerotic lesions in coronary arteries, for instance, or just in other soft tissues where you don't want them. And you know, we don't really probably need to go into much length about the benefits of vitamin D. I mean, that's extremely well known, and even the general public is pretty knowledgeable on that now, after the pandemic and COVID, because, of all of the natural agents, and there were many that had pretty impressive outcomes on having some level of ability to mitigate or at least improve someone's chances, or not a cure, I'm not saying curative, but vitamin D status correlated mostly with what your outcomes may be. So we know it's an immune signaler, immune modulator. It's also good for bone density and bone health, and it has a whole lot of other things. It dances with 1 million receptors and across the genome, and more than I think it's now up to more than something like 400 gene locations.
Wow.
So it's pretty amazing.
Yeah. And like you said, we use MK4 instead of MK7. And we do because MK4 is the endogenously produced.
That's correct. And MK7 converts to MK4, and MK7 is much more costly, and there's no benefit. It goes to MK4. So MK4 does the job and keeps the cost in line.
Yeah, and we're also able to use a lot of K2 supplements. You look them up, they're 180 micrograms, 360 max. We're able to do 1 milligram of K2 as MK4, which is a significant dose.
Yep.
And this one, because we're talking about such small, this is virtually just like eating a dark chocolate because there's small amounts in there. It doesn't have a really high taste profile anyway, but it's definitely one of our top selling products for sure.
Well, and the other, absolute requirement for us was this chocolate had to be awesome.
Yeah.
You know, the delivery system itself. It wasn't any kind of chocolate with this functional ingredient kind of spin on it. You went out and got a world-class chocolate, you know, chocolate expert, and this is incredible dark chocolate. So people really do, they taste that. You can sense the quality of it.
Yeah, we get our cacao beans from Peru. They're biodynamically sourced, very fair trade as well, and they just have a great flavor profile from that region as well. Some of the best chocolate in the world comes from Peruvian cacao beans.
Absolutely.
Also, so on here too, we're putting some information on there about the 15s and the 30s. So again, 15 count, the suggested retail of that is $20. 30 count is $34.99. So we're getting there where it's a really, you know, quite reasonable for what you're getting. The amount of active ingredients that you're getting is a very, I think, reasonably priced product.
Yeah, as you said, it's in line with other forms, whether it's a capsule or a soft gel or what have you, but you get the added benefit of that little treat of dark chocolate.
The next one.
All right, the next one we have is Dream, and as the name implies, it's going to help with sleep, not only to help get someone to sleep, but to help their quality of sleep and depth of sleep. And this contains a couple of different ingredients. One is melatonin at a 3 milligram dose, and the other is 5-hydroxytryptophan or 5-HTP at 100 milligrams. Both, you know, really the kind of doses you would often give in a capsule. And of course, melatonin is a multifunctional hormone. It's involved in circadian rhythm, day-night balance, helping someone get to sleep. And of course, melatonin is also an immune modulator. It's gotten a lot of attention lately for things other than sleep because of what we've all been living through. But melatonin is a nice touch, and it's a really good dose to have in a broad use product like this. And then 5-HTP or 5-hydroxytryptophan, of course, it's a metabolite of the amino acid tryptophan. And once you get to 5-HTP, it is a dedicated pathway to serotonin. So that's an advantage in most individuals over using, let's say, tryptophan, which particularly if they have inflammation, autoimmune disease, anything like that, any kind of viral thing going on, can kind of go down through the kynurenate pathway and quinolinate and can be somewhat excitatory to the central nervous system. So using 5-HTP as a dedicated pathway to developing endogenously more serotonin, which can help sleep quality. So it can help get people more into those stage 3, stage 4 type of sleep cycles that are the restorative delta wave type of sleeps. And a lot of people with things like IBS, with classic fibromyalgia, these kind of hypervigilant disorders that have a bit of almost PTSD, neurotransmitter abnormality to them, 5-HTP is very beneficial at night in getting them into that deeper sleep and in breaking up what they call alpha intrusion, where you have these alpha waves running on top of your delta waves, which is what makes people sleep for 8 or 10 hours and wake up and feel like they never slept. So this is a really nice formulation to do that. Oh, and then we have, I love this name, Exhale, just, right? It kind of gives you a vision of what its effect is. And this is our primarily GABA-based formula. So it's the FX chocolate with 100 milligrams of GABA and also L-theanine. GABA, as we know, is a neurotransmitter found in the brain and elsewhere in the body. And it kind of slows down the activity of the nerve cells, preventing sort of overexcitation, not being overtly sedating, but just kind of keeping people even and chill. Definitely an anxiolytic. After all, many of the anti-anxiety drugs are meant to be GABA agonists, hit GABA receptors. So using natural GABA in the chocolate is kind of a no-brainer. And then the theanine in there to balance it off. Theanine is very nice as just a calming neurotransmitter precursor and just a calming substance in general. It's very anti-stress, somewhat adaptogenic, and just kind of helps people feel calm and chill, not anxious, but yet not tired.
Which is really important. So it's interesting. This formula is kind of based on our NeuroCalm product that we have at Designs for Health, and our Dream is based on Insomnitol. So very similar formulations, the same levels of actives in there.
Right, and we've done that intentionally, trying to take some of our best performing products from other forms and duplicate that active ingredient profile as much as possible, but bring it into this chocolate delivery system.
For sure.
Okay, and now we have Defend, and this is, of course, a immune augmenting, immune supportive formula that harvests the beneficial immune properties of reishi mushroom. So reishi mushroom has a lot of known mechanisms of action on how it kind of dances with the immune response and fortifies it. And a big part of delivering this in an effective way was trying to do a full spectrum take on this mushroom thing. So we have a couple of different species of reishi. So we have Ganoderma lucidum and Ganoderma applanatum. I can never say that. Applanatum. Okay. And Ganoderma Tsuge, I never knew which is right. But this genus and species names get a little crazy. The species part of it mainly, you know. So it depends how weird the name is of the person who found it, right?
The researcher.
Yeah. So anyway, we have 3 species of this genus of mushroom, and then beyond the 3 species to round it out, we have all of the different parts of the mushroom that have different functionality and different actives in them. Do you want to talk about the parts?
Yes, for sure. So we get this blend from a company here in the United States, just out of Reno, Nevada, called Aloha Medicinals. And we were looking around. Actually, we have this in a few of our other products. This active ingredient, or this blend of Gano. And we think that they do just a phenomenal job of growing out all the parts of their mushrooms. So they grow it out on kind of an inert substance. They grow it almost 100% out. So you're not getting any of the alpha glucans. It's all beta glucan, and we're able to get all of the other values. So the mycelium, the primordia, the fruiting bodies, the extracellular compounds, everything is grown out there, and it's done in a really pharmaceutical, reproducible way. And that's why we've chosen to use this. And again, it tastes great. You wouldn't think mushrooms and chocolate kind of go together, but it actually.
But it doesn't taste mushroomy.
No, it doesn't.
You know, it doesn't have that taste or smell. It's 250 milligrams of this Gano Ultra material, and that delivers 150 milligrams of polysaccharides. So, so that's a really beefy immune product in a delicious tasting chocolate.
That's right. So a little bit about our quality control. I mentioned we actually purpose-built a facility in Daytona, just outside of Daytona, Florida, where kind of Dr. Brady and I work around there in the office and live there. And all of our chocolate is produced under CGMP compliant mechanisms. All of the raw materials, just like Designs for Health raw materials, everything that we get in, we test. We make sure that it meets specification, it's not adulterated, and it passes potency. With the chocolate, we go through kind of an intermediate step. When we make it, we block it out after it goes through. So basically, we put it into the conch, it grinds it down, we block it out, and we test it then. And we test it for potency, because sometimes in the conch it kind of goes up to about 43 to 45, 46 degrees Celsius. So it's a pretty hot temperature, and we want to make sure that the nutrients haven't lost their potency through that process. So we test it there. It then goes through a tempering mechanism. And the way that Morgan described tempering to me is kind of like putting Legos together, where you've got these bits of chocolate that are apart, and this is just putting the molecules together so they line up and have that smoothness that you kind of taste in your mouth. So then it goes through, and then once we mold that and we wrap it, we test it again. So it's three different tests. From there, we publish all of our C of A's. So on the back of these products, we have a little QR barcode where you can put in the lot, and it will tell you what our tests came back at. So we test for heavy metals, all of your micros, and the active ingredients as well. Some stuff we can't test for just because there's no real good mechanism, and in that way we quantify by input and ensuring that that product is in there so that you're getting what we're claiming.
And just like the packaging is very elegant and looks very high end, sort of like a like a treat, like an indulgence. Even the chocolate square, when you pull it out of the wrapper, you can see on the graphic of this slide, they look very attractive. They're very uniform. There's a lot of quality control on that. It's difficult. And then they're embossed with a little, what would you say, a logo?
Symbol,
not embossed.
logo,
What would you call that?
I don't know. Yeah, stamped, embossed.
Stamped. With a graphic that aligns with the name and the function. So it's kind of really neat.
Yeah, and they all have, right now they're 18-month stability. We do real-time stability on those. So this isn't, it's hard to accelerate chocolate anyway because it'll melt.
And everyone eats it when it sits around.
Yeah, that's right. So, but we think we're going to be able to get up to 24 once we kind of get that real time. But right now, 18 months, and that's all verified in our stability evidence. The kind of, again, talked a little bit about transparency, clean formulation. So very simple, cacao nibs, allulose, organic cocoa butter. They're vegan, they're dairy-free, gluten-free, non-GMO. And I mentioned about the QR code where you can see kind of the results.
It's a nice touch that a lot of consumers now want and like. They want to hit that with their phone and get the quality control stuff right directly to them.
For sure. So, I think this is our last slide, but just kind of hitting home again on why we think this is a great product, and we think this will really help you treat your patients and hopefully boost your sales. It's a really uniquely positioned product. There isn't, there's been a lot of gummies. There's probably a little bit of gummy fatigue at the moment, and gummies are full of sugar. This is a great way of delivering in a delicious way.
My adult patients also just equate gummies with kids stuff.
Yeah,
even if it's not a kid's formula.
Yeah, good point. Dr. Brady mentioned chocolate as a very optimal delivery system with not only its innate health benefiting compounds, but also it helps protect and deliver the actives. Dr. Brady spoke about compliance and his experience with it with his patients as well, and it bodes well to auto ship subscription services as well, improving that compliance, improving the outcomes, and it's easy to sell. So if you have front of store solutions, this sits really well there. It's interesting. We were speaking to some pharmacists, and it's kind of a funny, weird statement, but they're like, oh, this is the gateway drug to dietary supplements because it kind of sells itself in the front. It's very benefit driven, easy to trial and utilize, and helps people get into utilizing supplements and taking them as well.
Yeah.
So it's good for a front of store or for prescription as well, based on the formulations. So that's it for us. Thank you so much for your participation, and I think we have some time if there are some questions as well.
Yes, a few questions are coming through. That was great. I agree with a lot of the comments on how lovely the presentation is and the branding. I love it. Also, I'm now quite hungry, so I might have to. Yes, but thank you. It was great. We have a couple questions. I will, and more coming through too. So you may have touched on them as you've gone through the webinar, as they've been asked at the beginning, but I'm going to bring them up anyway, so we can kind of address them. So one of the first ones, and a couple I've seen come through, are about theobromine. Correct me, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing it wrong, but that the question was that some people have issues with theobromine. Is the theobromine removed? Is there theobromine?
We haven't done anything to change the consistency of the chocolate. It's natural. What comes through with the cacao, it's very low in caffeine, and we actually don't measure the amount of theobromine in there, but we have not removed it. I don't know, have you had much issues with theobromine in your patients?
Not really. I've had some patients that are extremely caffeine sensitive and stimulant sensitive that even dark chocolate, can be an issue for them. So I guess you just have to screen those patients out, and if they are going to try it, have them try it, small amounts, and just see how well they tolerate it.
That was actually another question that came through, was that some people do find chocolate as a bit of a stimulant, and if you had any concerns or kind of experience with that. So that's great. There was,
and particularly some of these chocolates intentionally have functionals that are calming. So the functionals would far outweigh any small stimulating effect of the chocolate as well. But again, there's nothing that every single individual, would never have any, issue with. So that's why the clinician has to kind of help make that determination. But for the vast majority of people, certainly not an issue on either of those points.
we had a couple questions at the beginning come through about the ingredients. And now we know that you said the products are vegan or vegetarian. So there was a question about, is there butter in there? But I believe it's cocoa butter.
Cocoa butter. Yeah.
So
and they're mostly the only reason why we can't say vegan is vitamin D is from lanolin, right? So it's as most vitamin D is, and you can't really call that vegan per se, but it's not from, let's say, an animal meat source or anything like that.
Right. And it's vitamin D3. It's vitamin D, right? But from a source that is. So that stuff gets a little bit.
So to be
minute,
to be completely valid, we say vegetarian. Yeah, but most of them are vegan. Yeah. Right.
Mm-hmm. And then there was also a question about, is there any fructose in the formulations? You might have touched on this too.
We do not put any fructose in, and I can't even think, of any ingredients that we have that would have natural fructose in there. We don't. So
no, I don't think so.
No.
And there's a bit of a longer question. So this question is about MK4. And the question is that they've heard that MK7 is more bioavailable than MK4, and they're wondering what the benefit of taking MK4 is if it's not as well absorbed.
Yeah, do you want to?
Well, the whole MK7 thing is an interesting thing. I'll just say that there's sizzle and there's steak, and it's a lot of sizzle with MK7. And when we look at the biochemistry, we look at the literature. Rather than the marketing around MK7, we actually look at the literature and the pathways. I'm not saying MK7 is not valuable, is not good, but it's controlled by one source and it's exceedingly expensive. And it basically is converted into MK4, the endogenous form. So now, whether you do head-to-head comparison studies on absorbability, if you get to the same endpoint with MK4, that's much less expensive. It just doesn't seem to make sense to us to use the MK7 in a product like this.
Yeah, and even if, let's say, MK7 were more absorbable, which it's kind of counterintuitive because you have to convert it back to MK4 anyway, but we're basically providing over 5 times the amount of K2 in MK4 than you would find normally in MK7. And again, that goes back to our ability, how much we can actually put in there because of the price point, and we believe that MK4 is the right source of K2 for us humans.
There was actually a question on how was it difficult to combine all the supplementation into one chocolate square, as in adding D3, K1 and 2, zinc, vitamin C. How was that process?
Oh, well, look, I mean, we this hasn't been easy. We've had a lot of failures. In fact, we're having some issues right now. GABA actually lowers the browning point of allulose. So we have this really fine line from which to make exhale right now that it's extremely difficult, and we're trying to figure out how best to efficiently produce some of these. We have kind of cracked it, and sometimes we have to put a little bit more overage in through that heating process. But it's more of kind of an art and a science kind of mixed in together to get to the outcomes. But there's a lot of intellectual property that we've created just from trial and error.
But we've intentionally also kept the formulations somewhat simple. There's only a couple of ingredients in multi-ingredient formulas. It's not like a multivitamin, you know, or some really crazy multi ingredient kind of formula. We can do those things easier in other delivery systems and the Designs for Health line.
Couple questions to coming through. Do any of the products or in any of the ingredients, is there stearic acid? Oh my gosh.
Stearic acid.
Thank you. Thank you. This is why this is your webinar.
These things are super clean label, as Neal said. There's only a couple of ingredients in them. Stearic acid is generally used in two-piece capsulations because as a flow agent, keeping the the machines from getting gunked up with the powders and things. So so there's no need for it in this product.
That's right. We don't even include any sunflower oil.
Right.
That can actually help and to improve the flowability, but we keep it super clean and minimal.
And I guess along keeping everything so clean, there was a couple questions that came through on the shelf life of the products.
Oh yeah, so I think I mentioned 18 months, and that's real-time stability in our stability ovens. And we send that off for testing. We think we'll get to 24, but right now our quality person says 18.
Okay. Let me see. I know there's a few questions, so I think it was kind of mentioned in the description, but I will say right now, Fullscript. And you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but Fullscript catalog on the US side carries these products. Unfortunately, it's not on the Canadian side right now.
Yes, even though Ryan is trying to get them into Canada. Ryan Malosh is works at Designs for Health for Fullscript and also runs Canada for us. So he's trying to get them in as well.
Yes, well, I would like that because I am also in Canada. A couple, let's see here. Are there any plans for a curcumin product?
Oh, we have tried. We have tried a lot. I bore my fingers are now just maybe not becoming so orange in my teeth.
Yeah.
Difficult one with chocolate because when it melts and it gets there. There are some microencapsulated curcumins that we've been looking at, but we kind of haven't gotten it yet. There's a few things that we haven't been able to crack. Magnesium is another one just because of the taste profile, and we've done a lot of different experimentation,
especially with the better forms of magnesium that people would want. Yep.
Yeah, that's interesting.
We are working on, so maybe a multi, maybe a digestive, maybe one for skin as well, and sexual health is another one that we're kind of working on in the background.
Yeah, it is a range that we do anticipate will have growth in it in different functional areas. This is just sort of the initial initial suite.
And this one came through too, a couple of them actually. Is there a recommended dosage daily? Is it like one package? I know they come in packages within the box.
One a day delivers the therapeutic dose of the actives. Right. You can take more, and in many cases it's not a problem, but it is a dietary supplement. It's not a confectionery. It does deliver a good dose, so you don't want to take 10 a day.
The whole box. But it is interesting where in supplements, capsules, powders, and all that, your problem is to get them to take it, take enough of it. With these, sometimes the problem is to not get them to eat the whole box in it, right?
To hold back. Yeah. Well, this was an amazing webinar. I think I learned a lot on my end. I know through the questions that had been asked and the great presentation comments that we had a great engagement. And if there is any more comments or questions that come through, I know the FX chocolate website is just as lovely, but you can reach out to webinars@fullscript.com. I can forward along any questions as well. I know probably Designs for Health website has a lot of information as well. As a reminder too, that this is being recorded, so you will get access to the recording after the webinar, and we are able to share the slides as well, I believe. So you can refer back to those. Any other resources we'll include as well. But I want to thank everyone for taking some time out of their day to attend today, and thank you, Dr. Brady and Neal, for presenting. I know you're at a conference or a trade show right now, so thank you for taking the time out to be here with us today.
Thank you. Of course. Thank you so much.
All right, everyone. Have a great rest of your day. Again, any other questions, reach out to webinars@fullscript.com or check in with Designs for Health team themselves. And enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks all. Bye.
Bye.